So yesterday I mentioned that I was working on a big video regarding SYNASTRY, like the normal stuff that we should be discussing as well, right? And the topic is certain in different houses regarding your relationship and what is expected of you in terms of that certain placement, right? So let's get into the details and see what you need to do, what you should be doing, and how you should be doing it. Let's go. But first of all, let's define what certain means in a relationship, right? We do know about certain in general, but when it comes to relationships, this is the binding glue that you look for in a relationship to be able to know that your relationship will last for a long time. All right, you need a certain aspect or a certain visibility. Without this, the relationship becomes very weak and it breaks so quickly, right? However, everything, it always depends on your ascendants and the aspects and everything else. So always mind your chart and just know that it could be different from one person to another person depending on how the aspects are, right? I think this is important for us to always remember, so that then we don't say, oh, but then my certain doesn't agree with this. Well, maybe it doesn't agree because you have a certain aspect that is blocking what it needs to do, right? I am also using the sidereal technique to explain what I'm trying to explain regarding certain. So if you do not feel comfortable with sidereal techniques, then maybe you won't relate for this part, right? But now let's talk about certain in relationships, as I said, right? This is a commitment, not just the glue, but this is the commitment. It shows the commitment that needs to be made or to be invested by both partners, right? And a lack of one person certain being strong, then you can see that one partner will hold most of the weight in the relationship, right? Certain is also representing the obligations and responsibilities that we have to our partners as well within this relationship. So it's not just about the responsibilities that we have for ourselves and our karma, but it also the responsibilities and duties that we need to serve to our spouses, our partners as well, right? That's certain also represents time. When we're talking about time in terms of relationship, it means that things will not move as quickly as you want. If you want to get married, it will not happen as quickly as it's supposed to be in your mind, right? So if you have certain in the 7th house, for example, this is the house of marriage, but it will not happen as quickly as you think, right? And if it does, most of the time the people become unhappy because the time is skipped. Certain needs time. If you want to see the best results in your relationship, give it time. If it is going to break the relationship, with time you will see that, okay, this is not working out. And if things will flourish and be beautiful in your relationship, again, give time, Saturn, so that you can see the flowers bloom out of the garden of this relationship that you're trying to build with your love, right? Saturn also brings structure in our relationships. It brings discipline in our relationships. Most of the time, couples do stay fidel, like committed to one partner because of the Saturnian energy. If they have a heavy Saturn, it would be difficult for them to cheat or to have another person or to flirt with other people. But then if Saturn is light, or maybe it's combust, or maybe it's being aspected by other planets, then in this case, the fidelity part could be compromised. However, Saturn is structure, Saturn is discipline. It brings that tradition of family life in relationships, right? Because Saturn likes tradition. Saturn represents tradition, and the family life is a traditional thing that is coming from ages and ages and ages ago, right? Whereby people come together and they fall in love and they make a family. That is the tradition that everyone all over the world is making, right? So Saturn likes this, promotes this, and wants to see this tradition continue, as well. But again, it depends on the signs. But for today, we don't look at the signs. We're forgetting that there are signs, because when it comes to the signs, then our story is going to change a bit. So today we're just focusing on the houses and pretending that, the signs are not existing, just for this explanation purposes, right? Saturn also brings pain in relationships and a resentment as well. It brings a lot of heaviness that can make you feel devalued as a human being, or overburdened in your life. Because, for example, it also represents step family members. Like if you were married before and you have a child, and now you get into a new relationship, and now you bring this child with you into this relationship. This child, I can see from the chart through this certain energy, this certain aspect. So Saturn represents stepchildren. And remember, not just stepchildren, but like step people. So it could be stepmother, stepfather, just step family members. And remember, not all the time step people are, happy to be around. Sometimes it is difficult to merge families. Sometimes it is difficult to be accepted by the step people, by the step family members. So this is how you know that obligation or burden comes through the step people, right? So the structure changes into having a sense of being burdened or overburdened, right, through the step family members, because that's what Saturn represents, right? Saturn can also show us how much effort is needed to be able to collect resources within the relationship, because remember, Saturn represents work as well. It represents efforts as well. It represents your karma, your dharma that you have to do in this lifetime. So when it comes to relationships, this is where we see how much work are you able to invest in a relationship to bring resources into this relationship or into this marriage. Saturn is also able to show us that part. So now that we have, the introduction of Saturn in terms of relationships, let's get into the house placements. Now, let's go. So, if Saturn is placed in your first house, in your natal chart, right? This tells us that, first of all, you yourself, you will be involved in making your relationship work. You will be physically doing things that are promoting commitment within the relationship. You will be waking up in the morning, doing what you need to do to make your spouse feel loved or feel valued. So you will bring that responsibility up onto yourself, to your body, and hold all of that weight to please this relationship or to serve this relationship, right? And number 2, I also see that you would be able to invest in a lot of communication, trying to make sure that the communication is clear, that the communication is understood. However, it will have a lot of obstacles. So there will be a lot of challenges in the communication itself, meaning that because you have taken it upon yourself to put in the work, you will also work so hard and repeatedly to make sure that this communication is clear and understood. And the more you work in the communication department within your relationship, the better the relationship will be. And the more efforts you place in your relationship, the better the relationship will be. But it requires time. Remember, I said Saturn is time. It requires time. So you need to repeat this. You need to do it over and over and over until your relationship is secured. Number 3, I see that you will value your partner. You will feel responsible for your partner. You will feel responsible for the relationship itself. You will feel like it is your duty to make sure that the marriage is happy, the partner is happy, the partner is satisfied and feeling at ease. And lastly, the last point is that you will put a whole lot of work even in your efforts of trying to bring money to the relationship. You will not only make physical efforts at home to make sure that your partner is happy, but even at work, you will work two jobs, 3 jobs, 4 jobs, trying to make money for your family and for your partner, also for increasing your status in the society, right? So now if your Saturn is in the second house, here you will feel responsible for bringing in money or for controlling the money in the relationship. And most of the time, the money would be coming through your hard work, but in very little amounts. It will not come so hugely. You would have to work so hard, more than everybody else, just to make enough money, right? But the more you work, and the more you increase, like maybe you increase from 20 euros to 40 euros to 50 euros as the time goes, but then by the time that your relationship is solid, you would be the one who brings in that stability in terms of finances, right? But then it depends on you working hard in bringing in the money. It also relates to holding the family together. You are the glue in this family to hold this family together, to hold this family from falling apart. You are the glue that will bring in the traditions in this family and follow the traditions and make sure everybody follows the traditions. The children are following, the wife, everybody, right? That is what you would do. Number 2, I see that you would also work towards building a home for your family or providing a shelter or a home for your family. So not only are you trying to bring in money, but you are also making sure you are having properties, you are having easy commute, which in the beginning it will be difficult. In the beginning, even transportation will be difficult. From getting from point A to point B would be difficult, like at the beginning of the relationship or of your marriage. But the more effort that you put, please remember this, certain is time and effort. The more effort that you put, finally, you'd be able to purchase that car for your family. You'd be able to purchase that home for your family. But you need to put effort here. It is you that will have to do this. The third point is that your spouse will be controlling the shared resources. You will be bringing in the money, you will be working, but then your spouse is the one who will be controlling the resources, the shared resources. But then you would also encourage your spouse to do that. You would love to see your spouse to do that, because in your mind, this is what relationship is about. This is what commitment is about. You want to see your partner, having part in having a say on how you spend both of your monies together, the shared life together, right? And finally, the final point is that you would also have many dreams that you try to accomplish for your relationship, for your spouse, for your family. And with the right connections and the right people around you, even also with the right promotion of job, you would be able to achieve this, right? And now if Saturn is in your third house, here Saturn in your third house is making you feel responsible for forming up the friendship within the relationship. You know how couples become friends? Saturn here is urging you to form a friendship with this partner of yours, or with your husband, or with your wife, right? It is also urging you to work on your communication, or to rather use your communication to be able to harness the stability of this relationship, right? Second point is that you would be working towards having children, or your communication with your spouse will mostly be about children, creativity, education of children, these would be the things that you talk about and that you work towards. But if you do not put in the work, because certain is time and effort, if you do not put in the work, then these things would be delayed to come. So if you are working towards having children, then you need to be working all the time, routinely, again and again and again and again, to be able to see the results, right? Your spouse would likely be committed into foreign travels, or would even be thinking about, having projects that are in the foreign parts, or they themselves coming from a foreign land, or they are foreign, right? But then your spouse's role here, it is to promote exploration together. So you would need to be open up to your spouse's suggestions about exploring together, traveling together, seeing places together, right? And of course, you would also want to see your partner have those things, because certain values commitment in relationships, right? So these would be another part of your lives: traveling and exploring, visiting museums, talking to different people, and foreign cultures, all of that, right? And the final point is that your work, you would be working towards your spirituality within this relationship. There is something that would make you focus on your spirituality that is coming from this relationship, or to help the relationship. And it would also include sometimes even abstaining from the bedroom life, so that you can rejuvenate yourself and feel yourself and work on yourself. And the more you do that, the more results are in terms of happiness in your relationship, right? Now, when it comes to Saturn being in the 4th house, Saturn here makes you focus on being at home, or in your home environment, quite a lot. It would be difficult for you to move because of your spouse, to maybe join them in another country or in another region. You are comfortable in being at home, or something is forcing you to be in your home country, or in your home region, or even in your home, right? So meaning that your spouse in this relationship would be the one perhaps working in the office, whilst you are at home. Maybe you work from home, or you can't find a job, or something like that, or you're focusing on building the family life, that is, maybe you're fixing the home, you're building the home from scratch, you're doing these things right around the home. So the Saturn here makes you focus too much on the home front, whereas the spouse is focusing on the outside, the work, the office life, which is working well in a balanced way as well. However, sometimes you would feel some resentment because you are looking at the 10th house, which is originally the house of Saturn. So Saturn would be wishing, oh my gosh, I wish it was me who was going to work, and all of that. So this could bring some sort of resentment. However, because Saturn values commitment and relationships, the spouse, you would be able to encourage the spouse, clap for the spouse, and just form a relationship that is balanced in this way, right? Now, the second point is that the work area, you would put so much effort into finding work or into working or into just finding avenues in terms of work and also for the relationship. So in your mind, you would be thinking, I need to find a job to be able to feed my family. I need to find a job to be able to support my family. This is your mind. This is how you're thinking. You're always thinking, I need to do some work here to be able to serve my partner, and it would be difficult and challenging to succeed in this thing. However, because certain is time and effort, the more you try, the better the luck comes, right? And then the final point is that you yourself, you would need to work on yourself. Not only are you going to be working around the home or thinking about serving your partner, thinking about finding avenues to come up with the resources and all of that, but you'll be required to work on yourself, to strengthen yourself, to strengthen your ego here, because this part becomes the most important part for the relationship to be healthy and happy. It is you. Work on yourself. If you need to improve your skills, work on your skills. If you need to improve on your personality, work on that. Have training, take lessons, and all of that, right? Now, if Saturn is in the 5th house, here you are obligated to deal with children. It's either you are taking care of children or you are trying so hard to have children and you are struggling to have children, but your life is just making you think about children, or work with children, or work towards having children, trying different avenues to have those children, right? However, there are obstacles also in the creativity, right? But with work and time and effort, because this is what Saturn is about, these things come to realize. It definitely they come to realize. Okay, the second point is that you are also always trying to work towards making your spouse happy, towards understanding your spouse, talking to your spouse, towards helping your spouse improve their skills as well. You're always working towards the relationship, and these are the things that you need to do in order to make your spouse happy, in order to make the relationship happy. Without communication with your spouse on a daily basis, trying to fix things, the relationship weakens, right? The third part is that your spouse is probably going to be busy, like leading some groups, or always with friends, or always among friends, or thinking about friends. But this is good, because then your spouse, through those friends and those connections, is able to bring in gains so that your wishes are satisfied, right? So the more you support your spouse, sometimes you will feel uncomfortable because you are with this duty of children, or trying to have kids, or all of that, whereas your partner is in the social circle, socializing. Sometimes you would feel some resentment, like, oh my gosh, I wish, right? But the more you promote your spouse to do these things, the more they make money, and obviously the more they make money, that is you also benefiting, right? And the last part is that you would have to work definitely towards building this family, a certain tradition. You would have to come up with a tradition that the family must follow. You would also need to work towards bringing money into this relationship somehow, or holding the family together as well somehow, right? So that's it for you. Now when Saturn is in the 6th house, your life basically focuses on dealing with work or health issues or something like that. So it's either you are looking for work, or it's either you are working too hard, like overworking yourself, that you don't even have time to do certain things that you need to do, right? But this is how your Saturn is in your relationship. So at times you would even lack time to be with your spouse, or to give enough time or attention to your spouse, because you are focusing on these things such as work, or looking for work, or your health, or being healthy, right? Or even taking day-to-day things like doing chores, that you don't have time for your partner, right? So you need to be aware that you need to think about making love, because this is the effort that is going to be required, and that you remember to please your spouse in terms of the bedroom life, to be able to work towards shared goals, shared resources, and not just about you, your work, right? You also need to think about the shared projects that you can do together with your spouse, right? Of course, you talk about a lot of secrets. You tell your partner a lot of secrets, and your partner does the same. The more you do this, the better the bonding will be. The more you share secrets together, the bonding will be good for your relationship, right? I do see, however, that you would need to put a lot of work when it comes to your in-laws. You would need to put a lot of effort, like you would need to start the communication, like initiate the conversations with your in-laws, because it's unlikely that they would do it. So it is your duty, your effort, to make sure that the relationship with your in-laws is going good, right? The third point is that your spouse is probably going to be a foreigner, or with a foreign roots, right? And it is very important to allow your spouse to take some foreign travels as well, so that they can be rejuvenated and come back renewed and ready to love you and to serve you into the relationship, right? And the last point is that you need to put a whole lot of effort in everything that you do, from communication to chores, to everything regarding the relationship, even for yourself. You need to improve your skills all the time to keep your spouse happy, because if you let yourself go, your spouse will lose interest in you. But the more you build yourself up, you get more competence, you get more certifications, you get more achievements in life, the more your spouse will be happy for you, and obviously the relationship would be good, right? Now when Saturn is in the 7th house, this is where Saturn is really happy to be, because here Saturn feels like it can do what it needs to do, which is commitment, which is partnerships, which is socializing with the public, right? This is where Saturn really becomes happy, right? However, it does not guarantee happiness in the relationship. But what it does guarantee is commitment, right? But happiness is not so much guaranteed. So what it means is that when you have a Saturn in the 7th house, there will be a lot of delays in terms of commitment. Some people could want to commit and then they change their mind or something like that, right? Or you feel so picky that, oh no, this is not the right partner. Oh no, this is not the right dress. Oh no, this is not the right venue. Oh no, this is not the right ring. So you have all these picky things, right? However, your life within the relationship is going to always be focusing on being committed regardless, right? And the second point is that you are forced to put a whole lot of efforts into bringing exploration in the relationship. You are responsible for bringing in the fun, for making the relationship fun, for making the relationship communicative. You are responsible for making sure the communication is going. Without these efforts that you, because this is your Saturn in your 7th house, the relationship will weaken. The third point is that your spouse will be somebody who reminds you of you. Literally, when you are with your spouse, you would feel like, oh my gosh, I have so much similarities with this person. And because of this, then you would want to treat your spouse the same way that you would treat yourself. So if you do not appreciate yourself or you critique yourself, it is the same way that you will do to your partner. You will critique them, you will see flaws in them. But if you love yourself and see yourself and value yourself, then your relationship would be better, because you'd be able to treat your person as your partner and your person as your equal in a fair way, right? The last point is that you would need to work towards building a family life for your relationship, for your partner and children. It is your duty, your karma, to make sure that there's a home, to make sure that there's a family life, and to make sure that there are properties within the family, because this is your 7th this is your Saturn that is requiring you to focus on these things and to provide or to make sure there's a provision of these things, right? Now, when Saturn is in the 8th house, here Saturn can bring a lot of obstacles in terms of the bedroom life, because it makes you very picky about who you share yourself with, your body with, or your resources with, right? So it can delay marriage for a long time, even more than in the 7th house, because in the 7th house marriage can happen as early as possible, but when it comes to the 8th house, here it blocks the marriage for a long time, or even having a relationship that is long lasting, because of this pickiness that comes in, even when it comes to their sexual activities themselves. You find issues, you find dissatisfaction, you have all these problems that you don't want, right? And even with the in-laws, there would be obstacles with the in-laws, right? So what it means here is that your duty is to make sure that these things are resolved. You must work. Remember, Saturn is work, Saturn is effort, and Saturn is time. And in this 8th house, this is a long time, because 8th house is about long time, right? So it means that you need to put a whole lot of effort for a long time in everything relating to this house, to the sex life, to the relationship with the in-laws, to bringing up and building up the finances that you share together. These things you need to invest yourself in making sure that they happen. But remember, it's going to be over time. It's not going to be a overnight thing, right? And one thing is certain: once you achieve these things, they will last for a long time. Even the marriage that you finally choose, it will last you for a very long time, more than average for people, right? Number 2, the second point is that you have an obligation in this relationship to have a career, a job, a status that will hold the partnership, or that will promote you guys in the social life, and that will bring in money as well in your relationship. This is your duty. And even with the communication, you need to be able to talk about what's going on in the social community, what's going on in the professional world. These are the types of communications that you would need to invest in, right? And when it comes to your spouse would be somebody probably from your childhood, somebody that you already knew for a long time, or even if you didn't know them, but then you find out, oh my God, they're coming from my childhood. And then there is an obligation to this person to make sure that they stay in their roots. You are obligated to make sure that your spouse remembers who they are, that your spouse stay attached to their family. So do not come here and break up your spouse from their family. No, your duty is to make sure that they stay close to their family, they take care of their family, they take care of their childhood people, right? The more this happens, the more your spouse is happy, and of course the more you also happy. It is also where the money will come off the spouse, from their family, from the people they know from their childhood. So of course the more they get money, the more also now you also have money. And the final point here is that you will have a duty and a responsibility to make children in this relationship, and then it is you who will take care of the children, regardless of your gender. It is you who will take care of these children. That is your duty, that is your work, that is your dharma regarding this relationship, right? And now when Saturn is in the 9th house, here Saturn makes you want to learn, but then the learning becomes difficult. You want to learn about other people, you want to learn about life, you want to learn about new knowledge, but it becomes difficult. But then this is the karma. You are obliged to learn these things so that you're able to assist your relationship, or to bring in new skills into your relationship that will help your relationship. So if you are in the university and you are failing, you have to repeat, because the future of your family life depends on you making this effort and achieving finally here. Because remember, Saturn is time and effort. The more you put effort, the better the results, right? And number 2, you are obligated, or you have a duty to make sure that your dreams and goals are achieved. So the more effort again you put towards your dreams, towards your goals, the more money you will be able to make for you and your spouse. But then without effort, without work, without pushing yourself, these things will not come. So it depends on you. The future of your relationship depends on you failing, but getting back up again and doing it again and doing it again, so that your dreams come true. All right. And when it comes to your spouse is probably somebody you know from social media or neighborhood or whatever, right? But you have an obligation to stay in communication with your spouse. You must communicate. This is how the relationship will stay. Communication with the spouse constantly. Probably your spouse is a communicator themselves, somebody who likes to communicate. This is very good. Be attentive, be committed to that communication that they do. Your spouse is somebody who is going to be self-driven. Your spouse is somebody who is going to be wanting to improve themselves. Get motivation from your spouse as well, and do the same for yourself, because the more you do, the more gains are coming for you. And the last point is that when it comes to the work that you do, the job that you do, you must work. You must have a job. You cannot stay at home. You cannot stay unemployed. You have an obligation to have a job that will bring money for you, or a lifestyle for you. You also have an obligation to stay healthy in this relationship. So check what you're eating, check your diet, go to your medical checkups. This is your duty to make sure that you are healthy for you and your partner. You will have to do this with Saturn in the 9th house, right? And now when Saturn is in the 10th house, here this is Saturn's place. This is Saturn's comfort zone. This is Saturn's home, right? And here Saturn is going to make you to be away from home a lot. You will be working at the office. Perhaps you are a director, or you have a huge status in the workplace that makes you to be away from home. But then don't worry, because this is your duty. You ought to be working so hard so that you bring money for your family, so that you build a home for your spouse, because your spouse is likely to be working from home or to be home a lot. So the more money you make from your work, the more hours you put in your work, the happier your wife is, and the bigger the home the wife will build for you, and the more beautiful the home will be, and the properties that the spouse will help you with, using your money that you make from your hard work, right? You also have an obligation, an absolute obligation, to practice spirituality. It will not come easily, perhaps because you're working too hard, but you must have a lifestyle that includes spirituality. This becomes for you important. The more you practice your spirituality, the more ideas you will have on how to handle your home life, on how to handle your job, on how to handle your relationship, right? And if you cannot fathom, spirituality, then at least take so many foreign travels. Just go away, be isolated, because this is important for you. This is how the communication will come through these trips or isolation or spiritual guide, right? And the last point, you have an absolute obligation to attend to your commitment, to your relationship, to your marriage, right? You need to work towards making sure that the relationship stays alive, that you stay committed in your relationship. You could be very busy at work, but make sure that your relationship does not fall apart, because it depends on you. It is your karma, your dharma, to make sure that the commitment is felt within the relationship, to make sure that the fire within the relationship is there and the bond is there, right? And now when Saturn is in the 11th house, it is in its Multicorn sign. It is feeling like relaxed, like on holiday. So Saturn here is about socializing. So your life is just about socializing, bringing connections to you and your partner. You know, you probably have your partner be the one taking care of the kids whilst you're out there with your friends and everything. But it is your duty to make sure that whilst your partner is taking care of the children, taking care of education and everything, that you give a support system, a committed word or a committed attitude to that, so that that life can keep continuing and the children can grow in a supported family, right? Number 2, the more you socialize and have more friends, the more gains that you bring to you and your spouse and your family, right? So keep talking to people, keep networking, do your thing. It will bring money for you guys and your dreams will be fulfilled. But do not ignore the efforts that your spouse is doing in taking care of the children and everything else, right? Number 3, you have an obligation to yourself to improve yourself. You need to put education to yourself. You need to get new skills. You need to make sure you are good with yourself. You are in a good shape. You are happy. And this becomes very critical. The more you are happy, is the more you'll be able to communicate and be able to tender for your relationship as well. And the last point here is that you have an obligation to make sure that the bedroom life is active. This is your duty. This is your karma. This is your responsibility. Even if your spouse forgets, but you must not forget. You must make the first move. You must make sure that your partner is always pleased in terms of the bedroom life. This also comes to get this also refers to the shared resources as well. You must make sure you have control over the shared resources. You must make sure you know where the investments are, the bank is, how much you guys have, how much you can spend. Also, you have the responsibility to keep the relationship going with the in-laws. This is your karma and your duty in this relationship, right? And if your Saturn is in the 12th house, here Saturn can make you a bit lazy. It can make you a bit secluded. Perhaps you would not even want to be in a relationship to begin with. You would probably be into spirituality or even isolated altogether. making it difficult for you to connect to people and have relationships. However, because Saturn is effort and time, meaning that the more you try to get out there and meet people and get into relationships, the better. And you're probably going to meet your partner whilst maybe you're doing your shopping at the mall, driving around, going to visit your doctor, or even at work, right? But Saturn in the 12th house, it requires a lot of courage to be able to move, to make the first move that you need to make to keep your relationships going, right? So here you would also have the obligation, absolute obligation, to make sure you speak positive words to your partner, you correct your speech, you are not harsh, and to make sure what you eat is good for you. And obviously, if it's good for you, then you are healthy for you and your partner and your family. You also have an absolute obligation to put a whole lot of effort into building a family life. It will not be difficult, but Saturn is time and effort. With this, it can be achieved. If you don't know how, you need to ask your elders, how do I do this? How do I build this family? How do I keep traditions? And then they will show you what to do, right? And the more your spouse works or is at work or is busy, tendering to their daily life, to their diet, the better and happier they are. So do not restrict them. Allow them to do that. Allow them to go to work. Allow them to take a jog, because then the more you do that, then you show commitment into their daily life, and of course they will return the favor to you. This is how you become happy. And lastly, you have an absolute obligation to bring in some spiritual guidance within your relationship. You could also have a mentor who could help you within your relationship and show you what to do, how to do things, how to relate to your partner, or even with your family, right? You need to take trips with your partner. These could be religious trips. These could be just enjoyment trips, but you have to, it's your karma to take a lot of trips with your partner, right? Probably to foreign places or other regions, other states, right? But you need to do this, right? So with all of that said, I'll talk to you soon. For now, I'm going to say thank you, a bientôt, and ciao ciao.